welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
Hello, good morning. My name's Scott Rahn, author of the Book of It. Book of It is a description of my own personal journey through experiences and reading and learning. It deals with philosophy, it deals with history, it deals with legends, deals sometimes critically with how far or how not so far man has come over the last millennia. The entire premise in the Book of It was to share that information. I'm kind of a reluctant author. I was not really in favor of publishing anything at first, and that's why the manuscript itself is 20 years old. And then I gave the manuscript to a friend of mine to read. He said I should try and publish it, which I did, and obviously it was published. And I think, watching things happen that, well, were far off in the future 20 years ago, made it more, shall we say, poignant that I share these discoveries, thoughts. What I call it is just a name. I was never able to figure out what it really is. It is this thread that runs through history, back through even legends of two different philosophies, two different schools of thought, how they battled, how they each seek dominance over the way humanity thinks and does. As that, well, when I mentioned philosophy, it enters into religion, it enters into religious writings, much more than dogma and philosophy in churches, etc. The advancements materially humanity has made, I'm not critical of. In fact, I like most of them. And the idea that all things come to an end, well, that would include not only us physically, but our world as it goes on. The entire concept of the book was that it was written as a set of short stories, essays, and I've heard called tirades. I don't call them that. They're more critiques. And they all stand independently. You could read one chapter, set it down, pick it up, read another chapter. That's not the issue, but the book itself, you'll find that all the short stories actually interconnect as you read through it. And as far as reading it, me myself, because I'm a big fan of liner notes, I like the idea of a book that is in paper, not an electronic book, because I like liner notes. Places, be able to go and look something up and check it out. That's one of the things that I insist on is, people don't accept what I said is true. Just because I said it, go look for it. Go try and disprove what I say. That's what I did. That's how I formed what's in the book. The things that I couldn't disprove, they're what became the outline of the book. What inspired me to write the book? Well, that basically I suffered a severe injury, and I was having memory problems, and I was afraid I'd lose everything that was in my mind. I have stacks of notebooks, but that's another thing entirely. So I started writing, and I would come home from work and write for a while, and the book kind of composed itself from there, because I wanted to save what was in my mind and not have it just disappear from even me. I hope that answers your question, Chelsea. The interconnection. The book is a narration. It's different events. Some stories, for instance, there's one about a knight who carries a sword. It's all around his story of his time and what he did. Although the historical period exists, this old knight is kind of a heretic teacher to, the me of the time I wrote it. Sometimes I think I've become more the heretic teacher by now, which is another part of the book. It kind of, the story evolves itself. And if you read the book, you tend to learn things, gives your mind things to think about you probably never encountered before. And if you pick it up later and read it again, you'll find the book itself has changed. What you get out of it changes, because you will have formed your own thoughts and opinions, basically, of what I've written. And if you do a little research, you'll find them true. Was the character inspired by a real person, Liz? That I would have to say yes, although it's for metaphors, etc. It's like I said, the young man that encounters the old knight is kind of me in the beginning. It's strangely autobiographical in several points. Real people, basically philosophers, teachers, PhD professors. I mean, they're all there. They're not named, well, for several reasons, including copyright reasons and licensing reasons that would get me in trouble, which is also part of the reason, the research, personal research I wish people to do, is why there's no footnotes. You have to go and look. You have to find, hopefully more in books than Wikipedia, etc., information that will either verify or discount or both, and then you have to wait for yourself. My favorite part of the book always changes. One chapter, the shortest chapter, for instance, is called The Gargoyle. It's about a gargoyle standing on a cathedral and what he sees and what he feels, or she, I suppose. It's just a statue. And I actually had contemplated leaving it out of the book when I wrote it. Now I dearly love that chapter for some of the things it says. The favorite part of the book is probably overall the riddles it presents. Things that make your mind work, because there are things that made my mind work when I went through it. And one of the things about me is I'm full of curiosity that just can't be, it can't be quelled no matter what. I'm always curious about something new. And I was studied almost obsessively, where what became the book of it became several studies. When I got bored with one part of it, I would move on to another part of it rather than have to start over with something else entirely. And I hopefully know that answers your question. But it's definitely the puzzles. The predictions, they're not really predictions. They're just things that happened. Not all the books behind me I've had time to finish or read, but some of them I use for reference rather than reading cover to cover. I am an avid reader. I started reading at a third grade level in the first grade. By the time I was in the third grade, I was reading junior high books, young adult books. But there are hundreds of books in this library. You see the books behind me that you can't see. And I've read a great many of them, yes. And studied out of other ones. Hope that answers your question. And they are separated by topic, by the way. There's whole sets of books on politics, books on legends, books on, well, the military, as I see one set over my heart, just to see how things operate. Even books on holistic healing. All of it, whether or not, some of it, whether or not I believe in it, thinking, well, the ancient alien people, etc. I'm of the school. It doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong. It just means I believe in the concept that there were other civilizations before ours. It's something I ran across repeatedly. And even if you are Christian religious, the time before Noah was another civilization with its own technology, its own developments, whatever went with that. For instance, being the ability to move 20 to 100-ton blocks. Vince, that's kind of the puzzle. It is just a name I made up because in the beginning, it was a nickname. Those of us at that time that were involved in doing this together, well, at my age, sadly, they've all passed away. We just started calling it. There it is again. There it is. Here it is. And then we started actually looking for a name, and we couldn't find a name for it. It's just a thread that goes through all of history, etc. And there's not any real clear name for it anywhere, or a real clear name we could give it. So we just ended up naming it. Hopefully that answers your question. But it's not anything to do with Stephen King's It or IT or anything like that. It is what it is. Angie, I was kind of a reluctant author this time. Like I said before, I don't have any other books. I have a couple that I messed around with in my head, one being like fictional history. It's showing history across, but as far as a published book, no. And then I do have a dry text that the book of it was taken from, which is basically notes. It reads like any textbook. It's kind of dry reading. I don't know if I'll ever publish it, but so far the book of it is it. That's the only book. And I don't know. Sure. The cover of the book, I don't know how clear it looks to you. I've tried holding an actual book up to a light, but you find that all the elements in that photograph actually are contained in the book. As far as the picture itself, that was an accident. It's mostly bric-a-brac I collected over time, and as I needed more space for books, I started moving it. And when the time came to design a cover for the book, I happened to be walking by the bookshelf one day and saw this pile of stuff, and it was like, hey, you know what? That makes a great cover picture. So we moved all this stuff, reassembled it on the writing desk in the front parlor of my house, took a picture of it, and that became the cover of the book. But if you looked through it, you would find elements, and actually if you could blow it up and it was clear to read, you would find titles of books, religious texts, etc. in the thing that I did read and go through during the research. But that photograph itself, like I said, the photograph was built of an accident of, I don't know, fate, I guess. I was motivated. Well, I had a friend actually, he's still around, who read it and said I should publish it. And we both became rather intrigued by the idea that things I wrote about 20 years ago when I wrote the original manuscript that were in the future were actually happening. One of the things being climate change, although my approach, although man-made, at that time had more to do with things like deforesting rainforests and jungles and how they would change the atmosphere, how they would change weather patterns, things like that, rather than, well, the CO2 emissions, which I don't discount because I don't have the scientific knowledge to, although I've read several works by people who do, but they don't seem to know any more than I do about it. I'll be honest with you. I said events that happened or are happening, things that happened in politics, things that have happened in technology. And like I said, questions that are ageless. Why is this way? Why is that way? And hopefully that helps or answers your question. But that's what motivated me to actually publish what was a set of notebooks. Main characters, each chapter is its own individual story, so to speak. The first chapter, it's a story of kind of who I was before all of this. In another chapter, like I said, there's the young me and the old heretic, which I would call the heretic more the main character because he's the narrator and teller of the story. One chapter, the most critical, is basically the character to this me on a long walk back from another place, listening to an ancient speak. This is the story of what he told the me, which is something, the stories and questions and answers, etc. in my mind are things taken out of books. There's not a real ancient I walked with, of course. The places, the people I've run across, like I said, each chapter is a different story. It's its own short story, but they're all interconnected in where they lead. Hopefully that answers your question too, because I really don't have one single character. And that's, some are religious, some are philosophical, I guess you'd say. And others talk about everything clear down to conspiracy theories. It's just, hey, what is this? But as far as a single main character, no. Underlying message, to quote a Montman whose name totally escapes me at the moment, the underlying message has to do with humans and personal self-discipline. He once said that if you don't have self-discipline, you won't have to worry about the future because eventually you won't have one. And so it goes through different areas. It kind of leans towards the self-discipline I myself adopted. Of course, that's only a human. It gets descriptions into other options. It speaks sometimes harshly of choices we as humanity have made over time and are still making today. And it also speaks very much of the idea destiny, regardless of what people are doing, that's not preordained. Okay, by fate, you're born into a world and you have your entire life to live out and shape what is to be the fate of your descendants. That's your destiny. That's really all there is to your destiny. And what happens and what you cause to happen and the society you shape becomes the fate of your children. Oh, that one? I really, like I said, I've come to dearly love the gargoyle one, which I didn't like in the beginning. Chapter The Keeper of the Sword, I still like the conversations between the young man and the old man, even though I've become the old heretic myself. Rather than the young man over time, I still enjoy rereading that chapter and what they said. I like the people that walk in and out at where this narrator, me, whatever, found sanctuary. I enjoy reading parts of that. But to pick an all-out favorite, no, I like the scope of the whole book. I wrote it. That's only natural, but I don't have an actual favorite. Well, I appreciate that. You can find it about anywhere. If your bookstore doesn't have it, they can order it through Ingram if there's one down the street. As it says on the banner, Amazon, which sells everything, of course, and Barnes & Noble. If you wanted to read it online, basically every ebook source carries it. And there is not, however, an Audible book. You have the capacity to change anything. That's the thing. Margaret Mead once said that something to the effect that it's impossible for anyone, everything that's ever accomplished and everything that's ever happened started out as the idea of one person somewhere in history. Things that shaped entire societies, entire empires, entire civilizations started out as something one person thought of and either had the determination, the guts, or both to present to the world. And have people see it, and some adopted it. I would say, well, one of the biggest changes in our part of civilization would be 2,000 years ago and Jesus of Nazareth. Granted, what he wanted was not what became the Catholic Church and all the other churches. He wanted a reformation of basically the Levitical and Hebrew beliefs. But still, that was one person at one time who presented ideas that 2,000 years later, we still profess to strive towards. So, yeah, you have the ability, any person has the ability, if they're willing to go through that, to change the entire world if they want over time, thousands of years. I mean, even the beginning of the Hebrew, Abraham, that was just a chance meeting between two people walking. What did you do? Oh, I don't quite understand your question. Where did you get your inspiration to write about space, adventure, mystery? Well, granted, it is an adventure, but it's not like science fiction. It's more of, well, a puzzle than a mystery. I suppose that does make it a mystery. Oh, yeah, actually, I do. And I will be actually tomorrow and next Saturday and Sunday. You have to excuse me. I'm kind of looking up times for you. Okay. Tomorrow, I'll be at, 12:30 Central. So 1:30 Eastern. And then next Saturday, I will be 1 o'clock Eastern. And next Sunday, I will be at 1:30 Eastern time. Back again. Uh, yeah, don't give up. I know that sounds goofy and simple, but write it, finish it, read it again a little later, and see what you want to edit out. And then I would say, even if you don't like it, find somebody you trust and have them read it, and then start looking. I mean, I didn't stumble over, everybody knows page publishing runs everywhere. I made a presentation to them. They wanted to see a manuscript. I sent them a typewritten manuscript, and the typewritten manuscript then became a book eventually. And I mean, it's anybody that's determined and doesn't let failures get to them. I mean, I'm sure people like Stephen King got lots of rejection slips before he ever had a book published. I've heard that from several authors in interviews. You just learn to read the rejection slip and move on, go to the next one. But yes, you can succeed at it if there's something to the story that's interesting. That's why I said give it to a friend to read first, and of course, reread it yourself. And as far as a mystery, yeah, you might want to research a little crime, etc., so that you have an idea of what's believable and what's not. Hopefully that answers your question. But that's kind of the only thing I could say about writing, because for me, it's an accident. Oh, the best compliment? That's easy. I had a lady sent me an email once and said she loved my book, and she was going to recommend it to her grown children to answer questions that they have. or to present answers, however you want to say it. But she said answer questions that they have and recommend they read it. But that's basically the most flattering thing. I mean, I've had bloggers compliment the style of the book. I've had well, thank you. I I don't know what to say except for thank you. I'm glad you liked the details, and the underlying theme was consistent. They connected everything. It's just you have to stay for it. And, well, there may be another book, Rebecca. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I have to be honest with you. This was not incredibly profitable, but it wasn't meant to be. I just wanted somebody to read it besides me. And obviously you have. I mean, I recommend it for everybody, obviously, because I wrote it, but it's not a sales thing. I'm not there. I want people to think things. I want people to go out and research things. And I want people to see that there's more out there to reality than, well, they believe or see on television or have been told by even their parents, let alone their teachers, and question things. If you question things, you'll look for answers for them. That's kind of how the human mind works. The brain wants to justify anything. It doesn't matter what it is. The entire run of it is that's kind of what it is. It's about questions, answers, puzzles, metaphors, stories of the gods. Who were the gods? Stories. Well, what is God? Okay, my next live sessions I've already once given, but since I will, and I'm about finished here tomorrow, I will be here at 1:30 Eastern Time, 12:30 Central. And then there's next weekend where I will be here on Saturday the 5th at 1 o'clock Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. And same thing, the 6th, I will be here at 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Central for a half hour each time. Tomorrow, Melissa just sent me a note. And tomorrow at 2:30, I have a 10-minute, 2:30 Central, I have a 10-minute interview with a Leah. And according to the clock, I'm out of time. Thank you. I appreciate the great session compliment, Michael. But anybody else real quickly before we go away? So in closing, like I said, I'd like to see everybody get a copy and read it and see what happens from it. The book itself, like I said, it's available everywhere. I just went through my live sessions and let you know I'm guess it's time to say goodbye. They're prompting me with that. And my next live session is tomorrow at 1:30 Eastern Time, 12:30 Central. Sorry, and that's my old dialect coming out. It does have stuff, but on occasion, the um, thank you very much. I I do hope anybody that was watching and asked me questions that I certainly did answer your questions to your satisfaction. And I'm pretty sure I'm out of time. And the whole of everything, like I said, pick up and read the book of it by, well, me, Scott Rahn. You'll be surprised at what you see. Believe me, I was when I found it. Okay, it's time to say goodbye. I told you a minute ago they were prompting me on that. And thank you for your questions. Anybody who just watched, thanks for spending a half hour of your time with me. I fully appreciated that too, even if I don't know who you are. That's the way it is. And oh,
Hello, Scott.
hello, Lisa. I'm still here.
How was the live session?
I liked it. It was actually, in a way, it was better than the author of the hour things because I knew there were people out there. They were sending me questions, and I got to answer them. Hopefully, answer them in a way that was, well, answered that question for other people also.
Yeah, you did really great on your live session today. Well, you actually answered all the questions perfectly. And actually, my one concern or my one advice is when I say you may wrap up the live session, you can say goodbye or I'll see you next time on my next live sessions. You can just say that once so that then you go on pause and wait for my my um, closing session or my closing video that I'm gonna be putting on the screen. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's great, Alyssa. It's just, well, I ran over it, and that kind of, and I was still on, and well, that kind of surprised me. I'll
No,
be
no
honest with
worries.
you.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I understand that one, Scott. But no worries. We can do. You can do that one in your next live sessions. And
Yeah, just when
mm-mm.
I get the prompt, and of course I didn't notice the prompt right away because I was talking to whoever had sent that question, and but I saw, well, 2:35 when you said you could say goodbye, tell the viewers of
Yeah.
your live shows. I gave that, and okay, your next live sessions, and okay, great, nice one, Scott, and then say goodbye now in the last few seconds. Well, like I said, I was trying to in my mind figure why, I was over or still on, and trying to figure out what to say. I'll be honest with you.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. Well, no worries. You can on your next session tomorrow, you can say goodbye and then pause for just wait until our outro video will come out. Okay.
Okay, so I just wait until I get the closing video. Just keep talking and
You just have to say goodbye, then go on pause. Then our
go on
outro video will done.
pause.
Like, yeah,
Okay, where do I go on pause at?
no, on just on the video. You just have to wait
Okay,
for the outro video. Okay.
okay, just say goodbye and stop talking, and that's it. Or
Yes, that's right.
okay, so when you say you can now say goodbye and